looking at vol, actually, I will do it on the platform to just make it a little bit better and a bit more dynamic. So let me switch the share. So realized vol obviously was elevated at over 100%. That finally, the big move dropped out of there, and that's come in. So you can see a big kind of convergence between a realized that captured that massive move, and then when that drops out, we come more in line. So it's always the implied that leads and anticipates this kind of stabilization, and then finally, when the big move drops out of the look back window, we get this convergence. So now we're down to about 12 vol point differential implied realized. Realized is still over, but implieds are now on a 50 handle, and suggesting that the stability has kind of returned, right? Similar story, we're up at 140 realized on ETH. That's collapsed all the way back down to 87. It is higher. It is a good 17 vols higher than Bitcoin realized, but the spread between implied and realized vol on ETH is similar at about 13.5 vols. So we are in negative carry still, but we're nothing like the 70 points on Ethereum and 50 points negative carry on Bitcoin that we had last week with those ridiculous moves. So that's what we're seeing and realize. Now, if we look at what's happened in the term structure, you can see a couple of weeks ago we were in a regular sort of contango. Then we saw that kind of inversion in the front end, flattening back down. So we've got the inversion there on the crash. That's not the height of the crash, but that was sort of post-crash. Front end came in sort of a couple of days ago, and then after we came out the weekend, we see that weekly stuff go bid again. So we've got that mid part of the curve. You can see kind of end of August to October. That has found a bit of an offer in Bitcoin of about sort of 3 or 4 vols. That weekly is still capturing the geopolitical risk that we may get an Iran attack this week. And we've got all this kind of inflation data. So that's keeping the weeklies a little bit firm. Expect that to get faded once that data is all out the way. Now, not quite the same story in ETH. We were in contango 2 weeks ago. We got the big spike in the inversion. 2 days ago, we had a flat curve and pretty flat curve still. We didn't really see the same drop in the short end stuff. And that weekly stuff is still bid similar to Bitcoin, right? So the only difference really is that the ETH front end 1 to 2 month buckets are not really coming under pressure quite the same as Bitcoin. So a little bit less selling flow, basically, I would say. All right, here's a kind of different picture of the implied vol. We get rid of the one day vol's like just a bit meaningless. So you can see we were inverted in the curve. That 1 week vol was up at 70 versus longer dated up at 60. So 10 vol point sort of inverted curve. Then we saw the collapse. That red line down at the bottom got to 50 vol on Saturday. And then we've seen all vols drift higher, and that weekly vol sitting there about 59 right now, a bit sort of mid-rangey. Ethereum, similar sort of moves. Looking at the skew, we can see on the skew side of things, we started the week kind of 6 vol put skew in the 1 week versus 8 vol call skew in the 1 year. They've been chopping around, but overall we've ended up with a slightly shallower put skew in the front end. 1 week at 4, 1 month at 1, flips into call premium at 2 months, and then it goes to about a 5.5 call premium in the long. So that long end call premium shrinking from 8 to about 5.5, and that put skew moving from about 6 down to about 4. So all of those extremes kind of coming in a bit, basically, right? But the same kind of steepness is there, where we've got a put skew in the front end. It flips into call skew in the middle in around 2 months, and then we've got call skew thereafter. On Ethereum, we had probably more extremes. We were looking at about 9 vol weekly put skew versus 9 vol 1 year call skew. So really extreme, really steep skew term structure. And now we're down to about 4 vols on the 1 week puts, but those calls are still pretty elevated. Those 1 year calls are still at 8.7 vol. So the long end in ETH is kind of stable, doing the same thing, but those front end puts have started to see some selling as puts got monetized and as the market's rebounded, basically. All right, so that's what we're seeing there. Looking over at the relative value side of things, We've got obviously the ETH BTC spot crashed. It has started to stabilize, but it still looks pretty ugly from a technical perspective. Here we can see what the skew. The skews are kind of not too far away from each other. We've actually seen this is 1 week skew. So Ethereum put skew down to 4, Bitcoin at 5. So this is bouncing around really. We did see ETH skew was holding, ETH put skew was holding, Bitcoin skew was coming in, but now ETH has kind of caught up with it basically. So they're still kind of trading quite in line with each other. And then in terms of the term structure over the last week, we had about a 12 vol point kind of premium, but you can see that front end has kind of spiked on Ethereum on a relative basis. It has started to come back a little bit there, but yesterday we were pretty inverted. Here we are still seeing that kind of end of August to end of September bucket sitting at near 15 vols. But then as we go to the long end, we do see converging to about 10 vols. So as we go to June next year, we've got a 10 vol point Ethereum premium in terms of at the money vol spread. And then those calls are even more expensive on Ethereum relative to Bitcoin. So a lot of upside vol premium still being priced into the Ethereum vol surface. Realized vol obviously has been 17 over for ETH, so kind of justifying it a bit. And then, I think if Bitcoin dominance is set to continue into the election, which I think is quite a likely scenario, then I think maybe there's some fading to be done here. And I have actually executed some trades today on that, which I'll talk about in a bit.
Hi everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up for a free 1-month trial at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.